Hey guys, so after watching all the Rambo movies, one of the things I really got inspired from him was the way he made his own knives throughout basically every single movie, just burning a bunch of steel and just molding it. So I got so inspired from him that I'm actually going to try to do it, make my own knife too, just like him. Here we go. See, I found that was just such an iconic thing of the Rambo franchise. The way Rambo always perfectly made his own knives out of steel and just burning them and melting stuff and melting steel, that type of thing. And I'm also determined that I'm going to make my own knife, and my knife is just going to be great, just like his. So I am going to continue doing this, and I'll show you guys the finished product a little later. This is so inspiring for me to do this, to make my own knife like this. Okay. Hey guys, so as you can see, as previously I was heating up that piece of metal previously, and I was just saying that I was trying to, I was so inspired by Rambo in all the movies. It's a very iconic scene where he's always shown to be making his own knife. So whether it's a traditional Rambo knife or, you know, the machete or whatever type of knife, and he does that by molding a bunch of metal objects with fire. And so I got inspired by that, as you can see. And so I moved on now from the stove top, and still heating it, but as you can see, it's come up to a pretty nice looking knife. As you can see, I'm pretty impressed by I'm quite impressed by the knife that I just created. I think Rambo, if he saw this, he would be very, 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 very impressed by me, because the knife that I made, you know, it's pretty impressive considering I made it just out of that piece of metal that you saw. I'm pretty happy about this knife that I have. And I think what I'm going to do with this knife is I'm going to have a steak with it tonight. Okay, so enough for the humor. So for those who don't know me, my name is Danny, and I make all types of YouTube videos. And one type of video I make is movie reviews. Not only for fun, but it allows me to share some of my enthusiasm in watching the movie, as well as making connections to other people of similar interests. So in this video, I will review the Rambo movies, all 5 of them so far. So that is, the first one is called First Blood. The second movie was called Rambo First Blood Part 2. The third movie was called Rambo 3. The fourth movie was called Rambo. And the fifth and final one is Rambo Last Blood. So, I always say this, but making these types of videos is kind of a learning experience. It's a learning curve, and I've learned, like, through making these videos about, like, once I look back and watch the video, once I look back and watch the video on my own, or people give me feedback of different things. So I'm always trying to get better. But one of the things is, for example, is I would notice that after I would do a video, I would forget things, right? Or like forget important things that I forgot to put into the video that I previously wanted to, or the grammar was off par, or the flow or the organization just wasn't the way it should be, wasn't maybe concise or efficient enough. So I found that just like anything, when you prepare in advance, it really helps. So what I always do is I make notes of what I'm going to, I make notes of the content as to the different things that I want to include in the video. So what I have here are just notes in front of me from my notes that I made in preparation for this. So when I look down and read it, that's what I'm looking at. And in my previous video, I talked about volume because, you know, when people do any type of speaking format, volume is sort of always sort of an issue somehow. Where one of the things is a lot of the times, you know, viewers also, a lot of the times they have difficulty because they can't hear the person well enough, right? So whether it's, you know, background noise or technical issues, there's like a million technical issues that could affect having a low volume. But one of the worst case scenarios is you don't want to have the volume too low where people have a hard time listening to you or can't hear you at all. So it's better to be, if you're not really sure about the exact accuracy of the volume, it's better for the speaker to speak a little louder. And because people say that when you're speaking in these types of formats, there's no such thing as too loud, because you can always turn the volume down on your devices. Whereas if the volume is not high enough, you're kind of screwed. So sometimes if I do sort of seem a little like louder than normal, that's why I'm raising my volume. It's funny because I said that in the last video, and I had that in my mind. It's not like that I didn't know. And then when I rewatched it, I noticed that the volume was just too low, right? So I don't know if it had something to do with the camera that I was using, or, you know, just little things like does the camera volume affect the recording volume, like stuff like that it's kind of hard to know. So actually for this one, because of that, I changed, and I'm using a different camera for this one. So hopefully the volume will be better. Okay, so maybe I just wanted to touch base on a few things before we jump right into it. Because previously I reviewed pretty much every Star Wars movie, and the backdrop was my Star Wars poster. So you kind of got used to that. Probably a lot of viewers got used to that Star Wars poster. Now here, as you can see, it's a different poster. So this one here, the logo is Marvel Comics, and it's kind of like holograph. If you, depending on how far you are from it, you see different images, right? So Spider-Man has always been one of my heroes, and plus all the other ones, Thor and the Hulk and Captain America and the monster guy, the Thing, I think he's called, and the other guy who's in red, played by that guy, I can't remember his name. He was always had drug problems or whatever. But so that might be the Avengers. No, it's not the Avengers, because the Avengers does include Spider-Man. but anyways, just trying to switch the, keep a little variety on things. And especially for this video too, I put on my headband because if you've watched pretty much in all of the Rambo movies, Rambo always wears an iconic headband. Well, it's a different headband for each movie, obviously, but it's sort of a staple to his character to be always wearing a headband. So I'm wearing a headband for this video, sort of in honor to Rambo. Well, this headband is actually a Survivor headband from the TV show The Survivor. Survivor. It's just called Survivor, not the Survivor. So I actually ordered mine online, but I'm not sponsored by Survivor or anything like that. I just wanted to say that, just in case you were kind of wondering why I was wearing a headband for this one. And yeah, so just wanted to grab some water here. Okay, so first, let's see, just make sure I don't want to be missing anything. So first, I just wanted to let you know where my own interest lies in these movies. I've always been a Rambo fan. What young boy isn't intrigued with all of the action, weapons, and excitement of such things that a soldier action hero like Rambo can provide? As a kid, my Christmas present was a cool Rambo knife. I've never really seen any of the Rambo movies in full, except for short clips on TV. As what is probably the last Rambo movie, Last Blood, recently released, I knew I needed to watch it soon before I was subjected to spoilers. So I watched it, then decided to watch the other 4 movies as well. So I should look up into the camera, give you guys some eye contact. That's what I'm working on. Okay. So another reason my interest in these movies was recently sparked is due to my rather new interest in the Call of Duty video games. Especially since getting the new Modern Warfare, I haven't many times found myself clueless to the military world, having absolutely no knowledge of weapons or combat skills. I knew that by watching the Rambo movies, I could have a better understanding of these video games and thus be better at playing them. And I was right. Throughout my review, I will reference some of the movie parts to various aspects of the video game. So, let's start with the first movie, First Blood. The town sheriff, Will Teasel, played an essential role of the movie by discriminating and degrading Rambo, for which Rambo seeks revenge, a repeating characteristic for him in all of the movies. Famously quoting in the movie, "They drew first blood." So I just wanted to talk about the Rambo knife. As I mentioned before, very iconic, right? I don't think it was a knife like that has ever been seen in the movies like that. So, when someone just first sees a knife like that, I think in the movie someone described it as when they saw that knife, one of the police officers goes, what is it for? And I think Rambo says something like hunting, and then he goes, and then the sheriff goes, "Are you hunting for elephants?" It's a huge knife, the sharpness and the look of it, with the teeth on it, that type of thing. Very, very intriguing. I was also impressed with Rambo's guerrilla tactics in the woods without killing anyone. Having those types of skills, and whether they were, besides the knife, all of his weapons were handcrafted, sharpened pieces of sticks and all that type of thing, and like camouflage that he made just in the woods when he was just right there. But throughout the whole movie, he basically did not kill anyone. Okay. The next thing that I wrote down here was, okay, the scenes where he blows up the gas station and also destroys the gun store, and also shoots out most of the town's power. Those were just very impressive. It really shows diversity in Rambo, that he's not only, good in places like the woods or natural areas, but he's also very good in city or urban areas too. So overall, I really like the movie, and I give it a 7 out of 10. So the next movie is Rambo: First Blood Part 2. So the plot is very appropriate in the momentum of a series of movies. Rambo's mission to find the U.S. prisoners of war in Vietnam allows viewers to see Rambo in action in his native environment. Rambo's situation of having his parachute become entangled, then losing all of his equipment, to only be able so that he was only able to use his knives and a bow and arrow. I thought that was good filmmaking, allowing viewers to see his raw skills in a challenging environment. However, it was confusing to me when it was said he was cutting the weight of his equipment in order to be released into the air. I felt that they could have done a better job in clarifying that. The scene in which Rambo kills the pirates and blows up the boat was impressive. Rambo's use of the RPG became iconic in these movies. And if you play the Call of Duty video games, that RPG is still pretty much exactly what it is in that 1985 movie. So the scene in which Murdoch reveals to Trotman that the prisoners of wars would have never been rescued due to the saving of money is still rather unclear to me. I think this could have been explained a little better than that. I found Ko Bio, and again, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, Ko Bio. That was the meetup person of Rambo, the Asian lady. Well, her role was okay. but her skills and especially her shooting mannerisms were rather comical to me. Although it was a 1985 movie, so back then, movies around the 80s, they were a little less advanced and modernized than movies nowadays in 2020, right? So, the Rambo helicopter scene was great. Seeing Rambo diligently fly that helicopter and use its guns so perfectly was incredible. Ending with that formidable rocket launcher. Again, this is reminiscent of the frequent use of helicopters in the Call of Duty video games. Overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Something else about this movie that I just wanted to mention too, that I thought was mentionable, was how paid products in this movie were so prevalent, especially back in the 80s. In this movie, it was the soda Coke with repeated camera angles showing that Coke vending machine, to having almost everybody in that entourage drinking it, to the scene showing Murdoch implicitly pouring Coke into his glass. It's rather strange for me to see that type of product placement in a movie. So next is Rambo 3, a plot of having Rambo and some mercenaries to go help a region of Afghanistan that's been invaded by Soviets. Makes a lot of sense. Most people only know of Afghanistan for Osama bin Laden, and that's after 2001, especially for a 1988 movie. For people unaware of Afghanistan, the wars there, and the overall culture in that country, this movie is extremely educational in that way. I like Trotman's role in this movie. Unlike the other movies in which he was just a supervisor, this movie allowed us to see him display his hands-on skills in a war zone, legitimatizing his military credentials. I really like the scene in which Rambo plays the horse-sheep game. It was impressive. It was really impressive to see the horse riding skills and how Rambo was also so good at these types of that Rambo was so good with these types of skills as well. Also, the scene in which Trotman and Rambo rappel down the rope into the cave was impressive. I like the scene in which Rambo destroys the helicopter with his explosive arrow. When Rambo and Trotman become surrounded on their way to the Pakistani border, Rambo takes out and uses an incredible weapon, an assault rifle with an underbarrel grenade launcher of explosives. The explosions were incredible. This same weapon with the underbarrel grenade launcher is also in the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare. When the Soviet tank is slowed by the rocket launcher and the Molotov cocktail thrown by Rambo, this brought memories for me. Actually, the Molotov cocktail ignited and exploded the fuel tank at the back of the tank. Again, flashbacks to Call of Duty's new Modern Warfare, where Molotov cocktails are widely used. I felt it was very creative to have Rambo's tank accidentally drop the main missile, thereby unleashing a string of machine gun fire from that main gun, which was very entertaining. Some of the other things in the movie I really liked were what looked to me like switch grenades, not previously seen. Also, those blue glow sticks. The blue glow sticks that are in the movie. Okay, that's what I wrote down here. In this movie, if you remember, the blue glow sticks, the uses for those were really neat to look at. One of the uses for that was triggering grenades. If you remember, in one of the scenes, Rambo sets up a trap and attaches the blue glow stick to a string attached to the switch grenade, and so he lays it on the ground, and then the enemy dude walks by out of curiosity, picks it up, and then obviously pulls the trigger for the grenade. Right? It's kind of interesting because in sort of in the beginning of the movie, when Rambo first got his all of his weapons, the equipment, and then the other guy, his new partner, was like, he asked him, what are those? And I think Rambo said something like, "You'll see," right? So it's kind of like that was one of the uses of it is to make people curious about it, and that curiosity will sort of trap them into a lot of trouble. And then the other thing was the other use for it was Rambo attached arrows to them, to these blue glow sticks, to decoy the enemies. You remember the scene where, like I said, he attaches the blue glow stick to his arrow, shoots the enemy, and then all of the enemies look at the glow stick, right? And then just out of panic, they just shoot the glow stick, and so they're shooting their own person, right? So it's a decoy. But I do wonder if the early 2020 rave parties got the idea of glow sticks from the military use of them. Again, these tanks, the tank guns and grenades, are all reminiscent to me of the Call of Duty video games. Overall, I love the movie. Even watching a 1988 movie in 2020. So I give this movie an 8 out of 10. Okay. Next movie to review is Rambo. This movie was released in 2008, but simply called Rambo. That's 20 years after the previous movie, Rambo 3, released in 1988. That's a big gap, although I think it's a good thing, meaning Stallone wanted to make sure it was a good movie rather than just milking the movies for money with terrible sequels. First off, I think it's a good idea that Stallone picked the civil war in Burma as the plot for this movie, as it brings awareness to the atrocities. I think most people have no idea of what's been going on in Burma, let alone to be able to locate Burma on a map. If you've seen the previous Rambo movies, you'll know the traditional Rambo theme music. It was nice that this music was implemented in this movie again. I found that the opening action scene in which Rambo kills all the pirates in the ship important, reminding us of the old Rambo and getting the tone and setting the tone for the movie. I found the scene in which the military forces I found the scene in which the military forces capture the missionaries and kill and destroy the village telling. The action shots were entertaining and also graphic, but necessary to show the extent to which those people suffer. I like the idea of having Rambo team up with mercenaries. Previously, Rambo has always acted as a solo, so this was a good change. Also, the mercenaries had interesting personalities to add to the movie. The two scenes in which the villagers were forced to run to their deaths in a pond at landmines was a little graphic, but still interesting. Two lethal weapons, reminiscent of the Call of Duty video games, were the C4 and Claymore. I could not find where the C4 was used in the movie, so I was a little disappointed about that. However, when Rambo used the Claymore to activate the dormant British tall boy bomb, that was a great scene to watch. The big action scene at the end, which involved everyone, was very entertaining. The M2 Browning machine gun, the flamethrowers, the gunfights at the end, and also the hand-to-hand combat were all just amazing to watch. Even Rambo killing Tint the way he did with his machete was just something. So in this movie, a machete was used. In the movie, it shows Rambo in the beginning making the machete on his own. So the machete was sort of a nice change from the traditional Rambo knife, and his use of the bow and arrow in this movie was just A+. Some scenes in the movie that I thought pushed the limits were I'll just mention some of the controversial scenes, were having one of the missionaries, who was a doctor, basically kill someone, although it was with the use of a rock. Also, the high military officer having what seemed like a sexual encounter with a boy. And the scene in which I believe was one of the missionaries having his legs eaten by hogs while being hung. Definitely controversial scenes. I liked how they had Rambo return to his father's home in Arizona. A very interesting idea and an excellent pathway to a sequel. I found this movie was very well done, and I really enjoyed it. I give this movie 8.5 out of 10. However, I do not recommend it to sensitive viewers. The last movie is Rambo. The last movie is Rambo: Last Blood. So even before seeing this movie, knowing it was probably the last Rambo movie due to Stallone's advanced real-life age and basically the end of the storyline to Rambo, I expected this movie not to be so action-packed like the other movies, and also a softer closing movie to the franchise. But I really wanted to see it because it was the last one, and I wanted to see how the story ended. So let's get right into it. The first thing I found odd was this White House, which was Rambo's father's house and a main setting for this movie. After carefully rewatching the end of the previous Rambo movie, Rambo, it shows Rambo slowly walking down to his father's house. Nowhere at all did I see this White House, which is big with a very bright white color. I think they should have kept it real without adding something that shouldn't be there. This is perhaps what happens when 11 years pass by from a previous movie. Another setback to having 11 years pass by is the story of Rambo's father was never told or seen in this movie. Also, only after looking it up did I understand that the lady in the house was an old friend of Rambo's, and her granddaughter, Gabrielle, was a girl who was abducted. So she was the lady's granddaughter, right? And so that was a little unclear in the movie, right? I really didn't understand the idea of Rambo inviting Gabrielle's teenage friends into the caves. This was confusing to me. The first action scene where Rambo stabs El Flaco with his Rambo knife was very reminiscent. It was nice to see the traditional Rambo knife again after a break. However, Rambo cutting into his throat with his fingers was rather graphic. Also graphic was how the cartel marked Rambo's and Gabriel's faces with knives. I also wanted to mention that although in this movie Rambo's knife was impressive, it was a very different knife than, for example, in First Blood, where in First Blood it was basically a survival knife, for example, with the teeth on the side. This one didn't have any of the teeth, it was just solely a knife, right? So, a little different. The scenes leading up to Victor's death were action-packed, with Rock Hills and the decapitation of Victor was memorable. memorable. I really like the action scenes. I really like the action scenes of Hugo. I really like the action scenes of Hugo and his hitman attacking Rambo's ranch. The traps reminded me of the first movies, and the weapons and hands-on combat were spot on. The final scene of Rambo's specialty weapon, the bow and arrow, was amazing, yet again. However, the removal of his heart was very different. Was very different. Being probably the last Rambo movie, I liked how the scenes from the previous movies were played. You know, how they replayed scenes from the first 4 Rambo movies. So I really think this should be, in my opinion, I really think this should be the final Rambo movie with no more sequels, no more prequels. I really liked the movie, although it was different to see Rambo portrayed like this, as an old guy, as an old man, almost with a dialect of wisdom, with a much softer edge. I give this movie a 7 out of 10. And I also just wanted to mention that even though I wanted to watch all of these movies all at once, I initially had a very difficult time finding where to find these movies online. But I just wanted to share that the only place that I could find all of these movies all in one spot were on my Xbox One console. So, like, for those who have an Xbox One, if you, on your console, has an app called, I believe, Films and TV. So you go into the movies, you do a search, and all of them will come up. It's kind of hard to find, but that's a good place to watch them on your Xbox One console. You look them up there. And so that's basically it. I want to wrap this up quickly before the camera stops. So thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for watching this movie. Thanks a lot for watching this video. Thanks for watching all of my YouTube videos. Make sure you subscribe. So hit that subscribe button, click on all notifications, and it's really important that you subscribe, because that's what tells me if my subscriber count goes up. If my subscriber goes up, that's what tells me that I should make more movies. So I'm just going to wrap it up and say peace out.